I'm Flora, 61 years old, a widow who thought I'd always have a place in my daughter Ashley's home. Tonight should have been a celebration, my birthday dinner with family. Instead, I heard the words no mother should ever hear. You're a burden. Now I'm alone in a hotel room looking at my credit card statement in disbelief. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button if you've ever felt betrayed by someone you loved. After my husband Jack died from a heart attack 5 years ago, my life changed completely. We had been married for 38 wonderful years, building a life together in our modest home in Pennsylvania. Jack was my rock, my confidant, and my best friend. We had weathered many storms together, raised our daughter Ashley, and were looking forward to enjoying our golden years, side by side. His death left a void that I never thought would be filled. I had been an elementary school teacher for over 30 years before retiring. Teaching had been my passion, and even in retirement, I couldn't stay away from helping others learn. I volunteered 3 days a week at our local library, helping with their literacy program for adults and children alike. It gave me purpose and joy during those lonely days after Jack's passing. Ashley was our only child, and like most parents, Jack and I had done everything we could to give her the best life possible. We weren't wealthy by any means, but we managed our money carefully to ensure Ashley would have opportunities we never had. We paid for her entire college education at a prestigious university, covered the costs of her lavish wedding to Mike when she was 26, and even provided the down payment for their first house. It was what parents do, I thought. You sacrifice for your children and hope they appreciate it someday. After Jack died, I discovered he had been even more meticulous with our finances than I'd realized. His life insurance policy, combined with our retirement funds and savings, left me in a comfortable position financially. I wasn't rich, but I had enough to live modestly for the rest of my life without financial worries. This would become important later. Last year, I came down with a particularly nasty bout of flu that developed into pneumonia. I was hospitalized for 2 weeks, and the recovery was slow and difficult for someone my age. Ashley suggested I move in with her family temporarily while I regained my strength. It seemed like a sensible solution at the time. Ashley and Mike lived in a beautiful 5-bedroom house in an upscale neighborhood. Their home had a spacious kitchen with granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, and an island big enough to seat 6 people. The living room featured floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a meticulously maintained backyard with a swimming pool and patio. Upstairs, each bedroom had its own bathroom, and there was even a home office where Mike occasionally worked remotely. The basement had been converted into a recreation room with a large TV pool table and wet bar. It was far grander than anything Jack and I had ever owned. Ashley worked as a marketing executive, and Mike was in finance. Both had demanding jobs that required frequent travel. They had 2 children, Emma, who was 15, and Jason, who was 12. Initially, my presence seemed helpful to everyone. I could cook meals, keep an eye on the house when everyone was out, and be there for Emma and Jason when their parents were traveling for work. I moved into their guest bedroom, which was comfortably appointed with a queen-sized bed dresser and small desk. I brought only my essential belongings, leaving most of my furniture and possessions in my house, which I decided to rent out rather than sell. At first, things went smoothly. I cooked family meals, helped the kids with homework, and kept the house tidy. Ashley and Mike seemed grateful for my help, and I enjoyed spending time with my grandchildren. But as my health improved, I noticed subtle changes in their attitudes toward me. What had started as a mutually beneficial arrangement was beginning to shift in ways that made me increasingly uncomfortable. The changes in Ashley and Mike's attitudes didn't happen overnight. It was a gradual shift that began about 6 months after I moved in, so subtle at first that I questioned whether I was imagining things. It started with the small comments about my cooking. Ashley had always loved my homemade lasagna and pot roast dishes I'd made throughout her childhood. But one evening, after I'd spent hours preparing a lasagna from scratch, she took one bite and frowned. "Mom, this is too rich. We're trying to eat healthier these days. Maybe you could make something with less cheese next time," she said, pushing her plate away. Mike followed suit, and soon the kids were asking if they could order pizza instead. I adjusted learning new recipes with more vegetables and less fat, but nothing seemed to please them anymore. If I made something healthy, it was too bland. If I used seasoning, it was too spicy. Eventually, Ashley suggested that I shouldn't bother cooking for everyone anymore. "We're all on different schedules anyway," she explained, "and the kids are old enough to make their own food choices." So I began cooking just for myself, using a small corner of their spacious kitchen, careful not to leave any mess. Then came the complaints about my spending. I had always contributed to household expenses, giving Ashley $800 monthly for room and board, which seemed more than fair. But one day, Mike confronted me about a small purchase I'd made. "Flora, did you really need another pair of walking shoes?" he asked, holding up the shipping box that had arrived. "You hardly go out anymore, and you already have a perfectly good pair." I was stunned. The shoes had cost $65 paid for with my own money. "I needed something with better arch support," I explained. "My old ones were causing foot pain." Mike shrugged. "Just seems wasteful. You know we're trying to teach the kids about responsible spending." After that, I became self-conscious about any purchase I made, no matter how small or necessary. I even started having packages delivered to my friend Sandra's house to avoid the scrutiny. The living areas of the house gradually became less accessible to me as well. If I sat in the living room to watch a show in the evening, Mike would invariably appear minutes later. "Oh, I was planning to watch the game," he'd say, standing over me until I relinquished the remote and retreated to my bedroom. Even using the patio became an issue. One Saturday morning, I took my coffee outside to enjoy the sunshine. Ashley spotted me from the kitchen window and came out at her expression tight. "Mom, we were going to have breakfast out here as a family. Could you use the breakfast nook instead? It's just that we so rarely get weekend time together." I watched through the window later as only Ashley sat outside scrolling through her phone, the rest of the family nowhere to be seen. The most painful change was in my relationship with my grandchildren. When I first moved in, Emma and Jason would seek me out asking for help with homework or just to talk. Emma particularly enjoyed learning to knit from me, and Jason liked hearing stories about when his mother was his age. But gradually they stopped coming to my room. When I asked Emma if she wanted to continue our knitting project, she glanced nervously toward the kitchen, where Ashley was preparing dinner. "I have too much homework now," she mumbled. "Maybe some other time." Jason was more direct when I offered to help with his history project. "Mom says I need to learn to do things on my own," he said, not meeting my eyes. I felt increasingly isolated in a house full of people. My bedroom became my sanctuary and my prison. I spent more and more time there, coming out mainly for meals or to do light chores. I tried to make myself useful and unobtrusive, hoping that things would improve if I just tried harder to fit into their lives. The comments became more frequent and more hurtful. If I forgot something minor, Ashley would exchange glances with Mike and say, "Mom's getting forgetful. It happens at her age." I was only 60, and my memory was perfectly fine. I simply had a lot on my mind trying to navigate this increasingly tense situation. One afternoon, I overheard Ashley and Mike talking in their bedroom. I hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but I was walking past their open door with a basket of laundry when I heard my name. "I don't know how much longer this arrangement with your mother can continue," Mike was saying. "She's becoming a real burden." "I know," Ashley sighed. "But what can we do? We can't just kick her out." "Why not? She has money. She could easily afford to rent an apartment or even move to one of those senior living communities." "It's complicated," Ashley replied. "She's my mother, and she's helped us out financially so many times. Remember the Hawaii trip we're planning? We couldn't afford those first-class tickets without her credit card. My blood ran cold. What Hawaii trip? What was she talking about using my credit card? She'll never miss the money, Mike said dismissively. And it's not like we're asking her to pay for everything. Just the flights. We're covering the resort ourselves. I backed away silently, my heart pounding. I had given Ashley an authorized user card for my credit account years ago for emergencies when she was in college. I'd never asked for it back, assuming she'd stopped using it long ago. Apparently, I was wrong. That night, I checked my credit card statement online and found no charges for airline tickets. Perhaps they were just planning to ask me, or maybe they hadn't purchased them yet. Either way, the conversation left me feeling anxious and unsettled. The word burden echoed in my mind as I tried to sleep. My 61st birthday dawned clear and beautiful. Despite the growing tension in the house, I woke up feeling hopeful. Birthdays had always been special in our family, even after Jack passed away. Ashley used to make such a fuss decorating the house with balloons and streamers, baking my favorite lemon cake with cream cheese frosting. Even if things weren't perfect between us now, surely my birthday would bring a moment of connection and celebration. I got up early and made a special breakfast for everyone: blueberry pancakes, crispy bacon, and fresh fruit salad. I set the table nicely, using the good plates and cloth napkins I'd found, tucked away in a drawer. I even picked a few roses from the garden for a small centerpiece. When Ashley came downstairs in her business suit, already talking rapidly on her phone about a work crisis, she barely glanced at the spread. "Can't stay for breakfast," she mumbled, grabbing a travel mug and filling it with coffee. "Major client emergency. Don't wait up tonight, we'll probably be working late." Mike followed shortly after, also in a rush. "Meeting across town," he explained, taking only an apple from the fruit bowl. "Kids can grab something quick, they're running late too." Emma and Jason thundered down the stairs minutes later, backpacks slung over their shoulders. They each took a pancake to eat on the way to the bus stop, neither of them acknowledging the occasion. Not one person said "Happy Birthday" before rushing out the door. I sat alone at the beautiful table I'd prepared, the food growing cold. Perhaps they were planning a surprise for later. Maybe they were pretending to forget, so the surprise would be even more special. I clung to that hope as I cleaned up the uneaten breakfast and went about my day. I spent the morning doing laundry and tidying the house. For lunch, I treated myself to a sandwich at a small cafe near the library, where I volunteered for a few hours in the afternoon. The librarians had remembered my birthday, presenting me with a card signed by all the staff and a small potted plant. Their kindness brought tears to my eyes. Back at Ashley's house, I decided to prepare a special dinner roast chicken with rosemary and garlic scalloped potatoes, green beans with almonds, and a fresh salad. For dessert, I baked my own birthday cake, the lemon one I loved so much. I set the dining table beautifully, using Ashley's best dishes and the silver candlesticks that had been a wedding gift from Jack and me. By 7 o'clock, everything was ready, but the house remained empty. I called Ashley's cell phone, which went straight to voicemail. I texted both her and Mike, asking when they might be home. No response. I sat in the kitchen watching the food get cold and the candles burn lower. At 8:30, I heard the garage door open. Voices and laughter floated in as the family entered through the kitchen. They stopped abruptly when they saw me sitting at the table, the elaborate meal laid out before me. "Oh, Mom!" Ashley said, her expression shifting from surprise to annoyance. "I told you not to wait up. We already ate at Salvatore's after we picked up the kids from their activities." Salvatore's was an expensive Italian restaurant, one of the finest in town. They had gone out for a family dinner on my birthday without me. "I thought we might celebrate my birthday together," I said quietly. "I made all your favorites." A flash of guilt crossed Ashley's face, quickly replaced by defensiveness. "Your birthday? Oh God, I completely forgot with everything going on at work. Why didn't you remind me this morning? I shouldn't have to remind my own daughter about my birthday. I said, hurt creeping into my voice. You've never forgotten before. Mike shifted uncomfortably. Well, we can't eat this now. We're stuffed. Maybe save it for tomorrow. Emma and Jason stood awkwardly by the door looking at their phones, rather than at me or the meal I'd prepared. The beautiful dinner, the hours of work, all for nothing. I notice you had no trouble remembering to go to Salvatore's as a family, I said, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. Was there a reason I wasn't invited? Don't start, Mom, Ashley warned. It was a last-minute thing. The client dinner wrapped up early, and we decided to treat the kids since they've been working so hard at school. So hard they couldn't spare 5 minutes this morning to wish their grandmother happy birthday, I asked. That's enough. Ashley's voice rose sharply. This is exactly the problem lately. Everything has to be about you. Your needs, your feelings, your birthday. Do you have any idea how exhausting it is? I was stunned into silence. Mike put his hand on Ashley's arm, but she shook it off. We've tried to be patient, she continued, her voice rising. We took you in when you were sick. We gave you a beautiful room in our home. And how do you repay us by making everyone feel guilty all the time? Ashley, that's not fair, I finally managed to say. I contribute to this household. I help with the kids and the housework. I pay you rent. It's not about money, she shouted. It's about space. It's about privacy. It's about having to constantly consider you in every decision we make. I'm your mother, I said, my voice breaking. I took care of you your entire life. That's when she said it, the words that would change everything between us forever. You're a burden, Mom. There, I said it. You're a burden, and we're all tired of walking on eggshells around you. The room fell silent. Even Mike looked shocked at Ashley's outburst. My daughter's face was flushed with anger, her chest heaving. In her eyes I saw not just momentary frustration, but a deep-seated resentment that must have been building for months. Is that how you all feel? I asked quietly, looking around at my family. Mike looked away, unable to meet my gaze. Emma studied her shoes. Only Jason, my youngest grandchild, showed any sign of discomfort with the situation, his eyes wide and distressed. I think, Mike finally said, his voice measured, that this living arrangement isn't working out for anyone anymore. It might be best if we consider alternatives. Alternatives, I repeated. You need your own place, Mom. Ashley said, her tone slightly softer, but still firm. This was only supposed to be temporary anyway, until you recovered from your pneumonia. That was a year ago. The realization hit me like a physical blow. They didn't want me here. My own daughter, the child I had sacrificed so much for, was telling me I was unwelcome in her home on my birthday. I see, I said, rising from the table. The beautiful meal lay untouched, the candles now burned down to stubs. And when would you like me to leave? Ashley and Mike exchanged glances. We can help you look for a place this weekend, Mike offered. No, Ashley cut in. I think it would be better for everyone if you left tonight. Tonight? I echoed in disbelief. You want me to leave right now at 9 o'clock at night, on my birthday? Ashley at least had the decency to look slightly uncomfortable, but she stood her ground. Yes, this situation has gone on long enough, and honestly, I don't think I can handle another night of tension and guilt trips. Guilt trips? I felt as though I'd stepped into some bizarre alternate reality. I made dinner for my birthday that everyone forgot. How is that a guilt trip? See, this is exactly what I mean. Ashley threw her hands up in exasperation. You're always the victim. Poor Mom, everyone forgot her birthday. Poor Mom, no one appreciates her cooking. It's exhausting. I looked to Mike for support, for any sign that he found this as absurd as I did, but he just stood behind Ashley, arms crossed defensively over his chest. You can't be serious about throwing me out tonight, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. We're not throwing you out, Mike interjected, using air quotes. We're just suggesting that perhaps it's time for a change. The arrangement clearly isn't working. And this decision couldn't wait until morning, I asked. Mom, we've been talking about this for weeks, Ashley said. It's not sudden for us. And frankly, after your emotional manipulation tonight, emotional manipulation, I interrupted my shock, giving way to anger. I made dinner for my family on my birthday. How is that manipulation? The way you're acting right now proves my point, Ashley said coldly. I need you to pack your essentials and leave tonight. We can arrange for you to get the rest of your things later. I looked at my grandchildren. Emma was still staring at her phone, deliberately disconnecting from the scene unfolding before her. But Jason's eyes were wide and confused, darting between his mother and me. Grandma doesn't have to go, does she? He asked in a small voice. Ashley turned to him. This is adult business, Jason. Go upstairs and get ready for bed. But it's Grandma's birthday, he protested. Now, Jason, Mike commanded, and the boy reluctantly trudged up the stairs, looking back at me with sad eyes. I stood there surrounded by the ruins of my birthday dinner, trying to process what was happening. How had we come to this point? What had I done that was so terrible? My own daughter would throw me out with no warning, no discussion. I've supported you your entire life, I said quietly. I paid for your college education. I gave you the down payment for this house. I've been contributing to your household expenses while living here. And this is how you repay me, by throwing me out like garbage on my birthday. There you go again with the guilt, Ashley snapped. Yes, you helped us financially. Parents are supposed to help their children. That doesn't mean you own us for the rest of our lives. It doesn't give you the right to take over our home and make us feel like strangers in it. Take over? I was genuinely confused. I spend most of my time in my room trying to stay out of everyone's way. How is that taking over? It's your energy, Mom, your constant neediness, the way you look at us with those sad eyes when we don't include you in everything. It's suffocating. I realized then that nothing I could say would change her mind. The daughter I had raised, the child I had poured all my love and resources into, had decided I was a burden to be discarded. Fine, I said, drawing myself up with what dignity I could muster. I'll pack my things. I went to my room and pulled out my suitcase from the closet. With shaking hands, I began to pack my clothes, toiletries, and a few precious photographs. One was of Ashley as a child sitting on Jack's shoulders at the beach, both of them laughing in the sunshine. I hesitated, then placed it face down in the suitcase. Another was of Jack and me on our 30th anniversary, our faces lined with age but still radiating happiness. The last was of my grandchildren when they were younger, before they learned to see me as an intrusion. Tears blurred my vision as I folded my clothes. I'd brought only my favorite items when I moved in, things with sentimental value or practical use. Now I had to decide what was essential enough to take immediately and what could wait. As I packed, I became aware of Ashley standing in the doorway watching me. Don't forget to leave your house key, she said. I paused, a sweater half folded in my hands. You're taking my key, so I can't even come back for the rest of my belongings without your permission. We'll arrange a time that's convenient for everyone, she said, as though speaking to a difficult client rather than her mother. I resumed packing in silence. There was nothing left to say. The wound was too fresh, too deep for words to reach. When my suitcase and a small carry-on bag were packed, I took one last look around the room that had been my home for the past year. The floral bedspread I'd brought from my own house, the stack of books on the nightstand, the small television I rarely watched, the crocheted throw I'd made during long, lonely evenings. You can arrange to get the furniture and larger items later, Ashley said from the doorway. Mike has called you a taxi. It should be here in about 10 minutes. A taxi, I repeated. You're not even going to drive me somewhere? It's late and we both have early meetings tomorrow, she replied, without a hint of remorse. There's a Holiday Inn about 3 miles from here. The taxi can take you there. I wheeled my suitcase into the hallway. As I passed the children's rooms, I noticed both doors were firmly closed. They hadn't even come out to say goodbye. Downstairs, Mike was waiting by the front door, my coat draped over his arm in a parody of politeness. "The taxi should be here any minute," he said, checking his watch. "I've given the driver the address of the hotel. It's $89 per night, which seems reasonable." I nodded mutely, taking my coat and putting it on. The birthday dinner still sat on the dining table untouched and forgotten, candles burned out. The taxi's headlights swept across the front windows, and Mike opened the door. "Well, goodbye then," he said awkwardly. Ashley appeared behind him. "We'll be in touch about your things," she said, her voice devoid of emotion. I looked at my daughter one last time, searching for any sign of the loving child I had raised. There was nothing there but cold determination. Whatever connection we'd had was severed, at least for now. "Goodbye," I said simply, and walked out into the night. The taxi driver loaded my suitcase into the trunk while I settled into the back seat. As we pulled away from the curb, I looked back at the house. Through the window, I could see Ashley and Mike already turning away, closing the door on this chapter of our relationship. And on me. The Holiday Inn was clean but soulless, a place designed for temporary stays and forgotten as soon as you leave. The front desk clerk barely looked up as he processed my credit card and handed me a key card to room 212. No questions about my late arrival or the tears I couldn't quite hide. Just another transaction in the night. The room contained a queen-sized bed with a floral bedspread, a desk with a lamp, a small round table with 2 chairs, and a bathroom with miniature toiletries. Standard, functional, anonymous. I set my suitcase down and sat on the edge of the bed, feeling the full weight of what had just happened crash down on me. My own daughter had thrown me out of her house on my birthday. After all I had done for her, after all the sacrifices Jack and I had made, this was how she valued me. As a burden to be discarded when inconvenient. I didn't cry at first. I was too shocked, too numb. I simply sat there staring at the generic hotel artwork on the wall, a vague landscape that could have been anywhere. My mind kept replaying Ashley's words, "You're a burden, Mom." The look on her face as she said it, the coldness in her eyes. When the tears finally came, they were silent but relentless. I cried for the relationship I thought we had, for the love I thought was unconditional. I cried for Jack, wishing he were here to hold me, to tell me it would be okay. I cried for my grandchildren, especially Jason, with his confused, sad eyes, as I was forced to leave. As midnight approached, I realized I was still in the clothes I'd worn all day, still sitting on the edge of the bed. I hadn't even turned on the television or unpacked my toiletries. I forced myself to go through the motions of getting ready for bed, washing my face, brushing my teeth, changing into pajamas. Simple tasks that now required enormous effort. Sleep was impossible. I lay in the unfamiliar bed, listening to the hum of the air conditioner and occasional footsteps in the hallway. My mind raced with questions and painful realizations. Had Ashley always resented me? Had I truly been a burden without realizing it? What would I do now? Where would I go? At 2:17 a.m., unable to sleep and desperate for distraction, I reached for my phone and mindlessly scrolled through emails. Then I remembered something that sent a chill through me, Ashley's comment about using my credit card for flights to Hawaii. With trembling fingers, I logged into my online banking app. The interface loaded slowly, the blue progress bar inching across the screen as my anxiety mounted. When my accounts finally appeared, I navigated to my credit card statement, scrolling through recent transactions. Nothing unusual at first. My regular subscriptions, a few small purchases at the grocery store and pharmacy. But as I scrolled to the previous month, my heart stopped. There it was, 3 first-class round-trip tickets to Honolulu on Hawaiian Airlines, totaling $25 $437.82. The transaction had been made 3 weeks ago by a card issued to Ashley as an authorized user. I stared at the screen in disbelief. $25,000. On tickets I knew nothing about, for a vacation I hadn't been invited to join, using my credit without my knowledge or consent. As I continued scrolling, other unauthorized charges came to light. A $4 $200 purchase at Nordstrom, $1,800 at a spa, nearly $1,000 at a high-end restaurant called Chateau Bleu, all in the past 2 months, all on Ashley's authorized user card. My shock gave way to anger, a slow-burning fury, unlike anything I'd felt before. This wasn't just inconsiderate or rude, this was theft. My own daughter had been systematically stealing from me while simultaneously making me feel unwelcome in her home. The same daughter who had called me a burden and kicked me out on my birthday. I checked the time again, 2:43 a.m. Too late to call anyone. But I couldn't wait until morning. I needed answers now. I Googled my credit card company's 24-hour customer service line and dialed the number. After navigating the automated system and verifying my identity, I was connected to a customer service representative named Marcus. "How can I assist you tonight, Mrs. Wilson?" he asked, his voice professional and alert despite the late hour. "I need to know about authorized users on my account," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Specifically my daughter Ashley. She has a card, but I'm seeing charges I didn't authorize." Marcus pulled up my account information. "Yes, I see that Ashley Wilson has been an authorized user since 2006. There's been quite a bit of activity on her card recently." "She doesn't have permission to use it anymore," I said firmly. "I want to remove her as an authorized user immediately, and I need to dispute several charges." "I can certainly help with that," Marcus replied. "First, let's remove her from the account." He walked me through the process, asking several verification questions before confirming that Ashley was no longer an authorized user on my credit card. "The card issued to her has been deactivated," he assured me. "It cannot be used for any new purchases." Next, we went through the recent transactions one by one: the airline tickets, the shopping spree, the spa day, the expensive dinner. As I confirmed each unauthorized charge, my determination grew. This ended now. "What about those airline tickets specifically?" I asked. "Can they be canceled?" "Since they were purchased with your card, you have the right to cancel them," Marcus explained. "However, there may be cancellation fees depending on the airline's policy. Would you like me to transfer you to our travel services department to assist with that?" "Yes, please," I said, without hesitation. After a brief hold, I was connected to Diane in travel services. She pulled up the reservation details: 3 first-class round-trip tickets from Philadelphia to Honolulu, departing in 2 weeks. The tickets were for Ashley, Mike, and someone named Caroline, whom I didn't recognize. Not for the children, just 3 adults. They had planned a luxury vacation for themselves, using my money while making me feel unwelcome in their home. "Would you like to cancel these tickets, Mrs. Wilson?" Diane asked. "Yes," I said, my voice stronger now. "Cancel all 3 immediately." "There will be a cancellation fee of $350 per ticket," she warned. "That's fine," I replied. "Still much less than $25,000. Diane processed the cancellation and confirmed that the refund minus fees would be credited to my account within 3 to 5 business days. "Is there anything else I can help you with tonight?" she asked. "No, thank you. You've been very helpful." After hanging up, I sat on the edge of the bed, my phone still in my hand, feeling a strange mixture of vindication and sorrow. I hadn't wanted things to come to this. I had never imagined that my relationship with my daughter would deteriorate to the point where I would need to cancel her vacation to protect myself financially. But then again, I had never imagined she would call me a burden and throw me out of her house on my birthday, either. As dawn broke outside my hotel window, I finally lay down and closed my eyes, emotionally exhausted, but somehow calmer. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for now I had taken back some control. I had stood up for myself in a small but significant way. Before drifting off to sleep, I made a mental note to call Harold Greenfield first thing in the morning. He had been our family attorney for decades and would know how to advise me on next steps. Because one thing was certain, there was no going back to the way things were before. My phone started buzzing at 7:42 a.m., jolting me from the fitful sleep I'd finally managed to find. Ashley's name flashed on the screen along with a string of text messages, each more frantic than the last. "Mom, what did you do? They canceled our tickets. The airline says you canceled our Hawaii trip. Answer your phone right now." I silenced the ringer and set the phone down. I wasn't ready to speak with her yet. I needed coffee, a shower, and time to think clearly before engaging in what would surely be a difficult conversation. The hotel offered a continental breakfast in the lobby, where I forced myself to eat a slice of toast and drink 2 cups of strong black coffee. Other guests chatted and planned their days while I sat alone, feeling oddly disconnected from the normal rhythm of life around me. When I returned to my room, there were 3 missed calls from Ashley, 2 from Mike, and a new flurry of text messages. "This is completely unacceptable. You had no right to cancel our vacation. We've been planning this for months. Call me back now or I swear I'll come to that hotel." I decided to shower first, giving myself time to prepare mentally. Under the hot water, I rehearsed what I would say, trying to stay calm and factual rather than emotional. By the time I emerged, toweled off and dressed in fresh clothes, I felt more centered and ready to face my daughter's anger. I was about to call her back when my phone rang again. Mike's name appeared on the screen. I took a deep breath and answered. "Flora." He began, his voice tight with controlled anger. "We need to talk about what you've done." "Good morning to you too, Mike," I replied evenly. "Yes, we do need to talk. The airline called Ashley this morning. They said our tickets to Hawaii have been canceled at the cardholder's request. That would be you." His tone was accusatory. "Yes, I canceled the tickets," I confirmed. "Tickets I knew nothing about for a trip I wasn't invited on, purchased with my credit card without my permission." "Ashley has been an authorized user on that card for years," Mike countered. "You've never had a problem with her using it before." "I authorized her to use it for emergencies when she was in college," I explained. "Not to spend $25,000 on first-class tickets to Hawaii behind my back, especially not after calling me a burden and kicking me out of your house on my birthday." There was a pause on the other end of the line. When Mike spoke again, his voice had a new edge to it. "We can sue you, you know, for revoking authorization retroactively." I almost laughed. "Sue me for canceling tickets purchased fraudulently on my own credit card. Please go ahead. I'd be fascinated to see how that plays out in court. While you're at it, you can explain the other $5,000 of unauthorized charges from the past 2 months. "What other charges?" Mike asked, his confidence wavering slightly. "Nordstrom, the spa, Chateau Bleu, ring any bells?" I let the question hang in the air. Another pause. "Look, Flora, I think we all need to calm down. Things got heated last night. Things were said that people didn't mean—" "Don't," I interrupted. "Don't tell me Ashley didn't mean what she said. She made herself perfectly clear, and then she threw me out of your house. Actions speak louder than words, and both her actions and words told me exactly where I stand." "Fine." Mike's voice hardened again. "But canceling our vacation was a low blow. We had plans with friends, non-refundable reservations at the resort. Do you have any idea how this makes us look? About as bad as kicking your mother-in-law out in the middle of the night on her birthday, I imagine," I replied coolly. "But I'm sure you can explain to your friends that your vacation plans were built on stolen money." "It wasn't stolen," Mike snapped. "Ashley has been using that card with your permission for years." "For emergencies," I repeated. "Not luxury vacations, and certainly not without even telling me about the purchases." The line went quiet again. I could hear Mike breathing, probably trying to control his temper. "Ashley wants to talk to you," he finally said. I'm sure she does, I replied, but I'm not ready to speak with her yet. I need some time. Time, Mike scoffed. You didn't need time before canceling our tickets. You didn't need time before making this dramatic gesture. But now you need time. Yes, I do, I said firmly. And it's not a gesture, Mike. It's me protecting my financial interests after discovering my daughter has been using my credit card without permission. I have every right to do that. This isn't over, Mike warned. Ashley is furious. You have no idea what you've started. I didn't start this, I reminded him. You and Ashley did last night. I'm just responding to it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to find an apartment since I'm apparently no longer welcome in your home. I ended the call before he could respond, my heart racing despite my outwardly calm demeanor. Standing up to Mike had taken more courage than I expected, but it also felt empowering. For too long, I had allowed Ashley and Mike to dictate the terms of our relationship. No more. My phone rang again, almost immediately. Ashley this time. I declined the call and sent a text message instead. I'm not ready to talk yet. I need time to process what happened last night and to make arrangements for my future. I've canceled my credit card that you were using without permission. Please don't contact me for a few days. Her response came within seconds. You can't just ignore me after what you did. You've ruined everything we needed this vacation. I turned off notification sounds and set my phone aside. There would be time for conversations later. Right now, I needed to focus on practical matters. I called Harold Greenfield, our family attorney, and explained the situation. He was appalled by Ashley's behavior and immediately offered his assistance. First thing we need to do is secure your finances, he advised. Change passwords on all your accounts. Check for any other cards or accounts Ashley might have access to. Consider freezing your credit to prevent any new accounts from being opened in your name. I spent the next hour following his advice, methodically working through my financial accounts and changing access information. I was fortunate that most of our assets had been in my name since Jack's death, and Ashley only had access to the one credit card. As I worked, my phone continued to light up with calls and messages from both Ashley and Mike. I ignored them all. Around noon, I received an unexpected call from Sandra, my close friend from the library volunteer group. Flora, are you okay? She asked, concern evident in her voice. Ashley called me this morning saying you'd had some kind of breakdown and run off in the night. She's telling everyone you're mentally unstable. I was stunned. She's telling people I had a breakdown after she kicked me out of her house. That's what I thought, Sandra said grimly. I knew something didn't sound right. What really happened? I gave her the abbreviated version, including Ashley calling me a burden and forcing me to leave on my birthday. My God, Sandra gasped. That's horrible. Where are you now? Do you need anything? I'm at the Holiday Inn, I told her. I'm okay for now, just trying to figure out next steps. Come stay with me, Sandra offered immediately. I have a spare bedroom that's much more comfortable than a hotel, and you can stay as long as you need until you find your own place. Her kindness brought tears to my eyes. Thank you, Sandra. I might take you up on that in a day or two. Right now, I think I need the anonymity of the hotel while I get my bearings. I understand, she said, but the offer stands. And don't worry about what Ashley is saying. Nobody who knows you believes you're unstable. We know what kind of person you are. After we hung up, I sat on the bed, a new emotion brewing beneath my sadness and anger determination. If Ashley wanted to paint me as mentally unstable to cover her own terrible behavior, then the gloves were truly off. I would no longer protect her reputation at the expense of my own. I opened my laptop and began searching for apartments in my price range. It was time to rebuild my life on my terms, and if Ashley thought canceling her Hawaiian vacation was bad, she had no idea what an independent, financially secure mother who had finally had enough was capable of. 1 month later, I stood in the middle of my new apartment surrounded by boxes and the familiar furniture from my old house that had been in storage during my stay with Ashley. It was a bright, two-bedroom unit in a well-maintained building for residents, 55 and older, just 3 blocks from the library where I volunteered. The second bedroom would serve as my craft room and office, a luxury I hadn't enjoyed at Ashley's house. The past month had been a whirlwind of activity and emotion. After 3 nights at the Holiday Inn, I had accepted Sandra's offer of her spare room while I searched for a permanent place. Her support had been invaluable, providing not just shelter, but friendship during one of the most difficult periods of my life. Ashley had continued her campaign of angry messages and calls for the first week after I canceled the Hawaii trip. When I finally agreed to speak with her, the conversation was brief and unproductive. She demanded I reimburse her for the embarrassment of having to cancel plans with their friends Caroline and Thomas, who were supposed to meet them in Hawaii. I refused, reminding her that she had used my credit card without permission. The call ended with her threatening to cut me off from my grandchildren permanently. That threat had pierced my heart like nothing else could. Emma and Jason were innocent in this conflict, and the thought of losing my relationship with them was almost unbearable. But I also recognized emotional manipulation when I saw it. Ashley was using the children as leverage, just as she had used my desire to be part of the family to keep me in line at her house. I had consulted with Harold about grandparents' rights in our state, but the legal situation was complicated. Without Jack alive as my co-grandparent and with no evidence of Ashley and Mike being unfit parents, I had little legal recourse. My best hope was that time would soften Ashley's stance, or that the children themselves would reach out when they were older. Decorating my new apartment had become a form of therapy. I chose colors and furniture arrangements that reflected my personality, not constrained by anyone else's preferences. The living room walls were now a soft sage green adorned with artwork I'd collected over the years. The kitchen, though smaller than Ashley's, was mine to use however and whenever I wanted. No more cooking in a corner, careful not to take up too much space. I had reclaimed items from storage that reminded me of happier times: the antique writing desk Jack had refinished for our 10th anniversary, the handmade quilt from my grandmother, the collection of first edition novels I'd been gathering since college. Each item represented a piece of my identity that had been submerged during my year in Ashley's home. My financial situation had stabilized as well. Harold had helped me review all my accounts and investments, confirming that despite Ashley's unauthorized use of my credit card, my overall financial position remained secure. I had enough to live comfortably for the rest of my life if I continued to be careful. The rental income from my old house provided additional security, though I was considering selling it now that I had settled into the apartment. The doorbell rang, interrupting my thoughts. I navigated through the boxes to answer it, finding Sandra and 2 other friends from the library standing there with a potted plant and a bottle of champagne. "Housewarming," Sandra announced, stepping in to give me a hug. "Or apartment warming, I suppose. We couldn't let you spend your first night here alone." Their thoughtfulness brought tears to my eyes. "Thank you," I said, ushering them inside. "Excuse the mess. I'm still unpacking." "It already looks like home," Marge, one of the other volunteers, commented. "Very you." We found glasses in a recently unpacked box and toasted to new beginnings. As we chatted and laughed, I felt a sense of peace settling over me. These women had become my support system, stepping in when my own family had failed me. They didn't see me as a burden, but as a friend, a person of value. The following week, I encountered an unexpected surprise while working at the library. I was reshelving books in the children's section when I heard a familiar voice. "Grandma?" I turned to find Jason standing there, his school backpack slung over one shoulder, looking uncertain but hopeful. "Jason!" I exclaimed instinctively, moving to hug him before stopping myself, unsure if he would welcome the gesture. He solved my dilemma by stepping forward and wrapping his arms around my waist. "I missed you," he mumbled into my cardigan. "I've missed you too, sweetheart," I said, tears threatening. "So very much." We sat at one of the small tables, and Jason explained that he had asked his friend's mother to drop him at the library after school, knowing I volunteered there on Wednesdays. "Mom doesn't know I'm here," he confessed. "She still gets really angry when anyone mentions you. But Emma and I don't understand what happened. One day you were there and then you were gone. Mom said you decided to leave, but that didn't sound right." I chose my words carefully, not wanting to put him in the middle of adult conflicts. "Your mom and I had a disagreement about whether it was best for me to continue living with you. Sometimes adults have different ideas about what's best, and that can cause conflicts." Jason nodded solemnly. "Emma says Mom was mean to you. She heard them talking about making you leave on your birthday." My heart ached at the thought of the children overhearing such things. "It was a difficult situation for everyone," I said diplomatically. "But Jason, I want you to know that none of this is your fault or Emma's. I love you both very much, and that will never change." "Can we still see you sometimes?" he asked, his young face serious. "I would like that very much," I replied. "But we should talk to your parents about it. I don't want to do anything behind their backs." Jason's face fell. "Mom won't let us. She said you're manipulative and unstable." The words stung, but I maintained my composure. "I understand that your mom is upset right now. Give her some time. Meanwhile, I'll always be here at the library on Mondays and Wednesdays if you want to stop by. And I have a new apartment not far from here." We spent the next half hour catching up. Jason told me about school, his soccer team, and how Emma had joined the debate club. It was a precious glimpse into the lives of my grandchildren that I had been missing. When it was time for him to leave to meet his friend's mother, he hugged me tightly again. "I'm glad you're okay, Grandma," he said. "Emma will want to know too." "Tell her I love her," I replied. "And take care of yourself, Jason." After he left, I sat for a long while processing the encounter. It had been bittersweet, joyful to see him, but painful to be reminded of the rift in our family.
Yet it had also given me hope. The children remembered me, cared about me, and sought me out. That was something Ashley couldn't control completely. 2 days later, I received an unexpected letter in the mail. The return address showed Mike's name, not Ashley's. Inside was a brief handwritten note. "Flora, I want to apologize for my role in what happened. While I still believe the living arrangement wasn't working, the way everything unfolded was wrong. Ashley is still too angry to reach out, but I wanted you to know that I regret how things were handled. The children miss you, Mike." It wasn't much, but it was an acknowledgement, a small crack in the wall that had been erected between us. I carefully put the note in my desk drawer, not yet ready to respond, but appreciative of the gesture nonetheless.
As I continued settling into my new life, I often reflected on the painful journey that had brought me here. The daughter I had raised, the one I had sacrificed for and loved unconditionally, had called me a burden and cast me aside when I needed her. The betrayal still hurt a wound that might never fully heal. But from that painful experience, I had gained something valuable, a clearer understanding of healthy relationships and boundaries. I had learned that love shouldn't mean allowing yourself to be mistreated, that being a mother didn't mean being a doormat, that standing up for yourself isn't selfish, but necessary for self-preservation. My new apartment was smaller than Ashley's house, but it was filled with peace and self-respect. My circle of friends was perhaps less conventional than a traditional family, but they valued me for who I was. And while I missed my grandchildren desperately, I had hope that our bonds would endure despite the current estrangement. As I hung the last of my pictures, a photograph of Jack and me on our wedding day, I felt a sense of completion. This space was mine. This life was mine. And though the path forward might still hold challenges, I would face them with the strength and dignity I had rediscovered. Sometimes being called a burden is the push you need to realize how much you can carry on your own. 1 year has passed since that fateful birthday night, when my life changed forever. Looking back, I can hardly believe how different everything is now. My apartment has become a true home, filled with warmth, color, and the freedom to be myself completely. The sage green walls, once so bare, are now adorned with photographs, artwork, and the memories I've created in this new chapter of my life. My routine has expanded beyond library volunteering. I now teach a weekly knitting class at the senior center, lead a book club that meets in my building's community room, and have even started taking painting lessons, something I'd always wanted to try but never found the time for. My days are full purposeful and, most importantly, my own to structure as I please. The relationship with my grandchildren has evolved in unexpected ways. Jason's library visits continued despite Ashley's disapproval, and eventually, Emma began joining him. At first, these meetings were our secret, which troubled me ethically. But when Mike discovered what was happening, instead of forbidding it, he offered to facilitate regular visits. Ashley still refuses to see or speak to me directly, but she has reluctantly agreed to allow the children to spend one Saturday a month with me. Those Saturdays have become precious beyond measure. Emma, now 16, brings her debate topics for us to discuss, valuing my perspective and experience. Jason, 13 and growing taller by the day, shares his interest in history and asks about family stories from before he was born. We bake cookies together, play board games, and sometimes just talk about their lives and dreams. The relationship feels more authentic than when I lived with them, free from tension and walking on eggshells. Mike and I have established a cordial, if distant, relationship. He emails occasionally with updates about the children or to coordinate visits. He has never again mentioned the Hawaii trip or the credit card incident, tacitly acknowledging that Ashley was in the wrong. From bits and pieces the children have shared, I gather that the marriage has been strained since everything happened. Part of me feels sorry for them, while another part recognizes that they are facing the natural consequences of their actions. As for Ashley, the wall between us remains high and solid. My attempts to reach out on holidays and her birthday have been met with silence or brief formal acknowledgments. The deep hurt she inflicted still aches when I allow myself to dwell on it, but those moments come less frequently now. I've accepted that she may never admit her wrongdoing or seek genuine reconciliation. The realization is painful, but no longer devastating. One unexpected outcome of my situation was connecting with a support group for older adults experiencing family estrangement. Hearing others' stories, some far more heartbreaking than mine, gave me perspective and community. Many seniors face abandonment or mistreatment by adult children, often suffering in silence due to shame or denial. By sharing my experience, I've been able to help others recognize unhealthy family dynamics and find the courage to establish boundaries. The group's founder, a therapist named Dr. Elaine Morgan, invited me to speak at several community workshops about emotional and financial abuse of elderly parents. Standing at the podium the first time was terrifying, but watching recognition dawn on faces in the audience, that moment when someone realizes they're not alone in their experience, made it worthwhile. My story has become a small force for positive change, which brings meaning to the pain I endured. Financial independence has been key to my recovery. Harold, my attorney, helped me reorganize my assets to ensure complete security. I sold my old house, investing the proceeds carefully to supplement my retirement income. My new financial advisor, a sharp young woman named Tamara, has guided me toward investments that align with my values while ensuring my long-term stability. The knowledge that I can support myself comfortably for the rest of my life without depending on anyone brings profound peace of mind. Perhaps the most valuable lesson I've learned is about the nature of love and family. For so long, I believed that family relationships should be preserved at all costs, that a mother's love meant enduring any treatment from her children, that my worth was tied to my usefulness to others. Now I understand that healthy love has boundaries, that respect must be mutual. That family can be chosen as well as born. My chosen family has expanded to include Sandra and the library volunteers, my neighbors in the apartment building, my support group friends, and even Tamara, who often stays after our financial meetings just to chat. These connections are based on mutual respect and genuine affection, not obligation or guilt. They prove that meaningful relationships can begin at any age. Do I still feel sadness about Ashley? Of course. There are moments when a memory ambushes me. Ashley as a little girl running into my arms after her first day of school. Ashley in her wedding dress asking nervously if she looked beautiful. Ashley holding Emma as a newborn, looking to me for reassurance that she was doing it right. The mother-daughter bond doesn't disappear even when severely damaged. The love remains, but now it exists alongside the wisdom to protect myself from further harm. Would I take the same actions again, canceling the Hawaii trip and standing firm against Ashley's manipulations without hesitation? That moment of saying no, of refusing to be exploited and devalued, was the first step toward reclaiming my dignity and self-worth. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to stop accepting unloving treatment from others, even when those others are your flesh and blood. As I look around my sun-filled living room at the life I've built, from the ashes of betrayal, I feel a deep gratitude for the journey, painful though it was. I am stronger, more authentic, and paradoxically, more capable of genuine connection than I was before. At 62, I've discovered that life can begin again, that wounds can become wisdom, and that being called a burden by someone who should cherish you can actually release you from the real burden of trying to earn love that should be freely given. If you're watching this and recognizing your own situation in my story, please know that you deserve respect and kindness regardless of your age or relationship status. You are never too old to start over, to set boundaries, or to create a life that honors your worth. Have you ever had to rebuild after betrayal by someone close to you? How did you find your strength? Share your experiences in the comments below, and remember to subscribe if my story resonated with you. We're stronger when we share our journeys and support each other through life's challenges. Thank you for listening, and remember, your value never diminishes even when others fail to see it.